Hi guys, today we'll be talking about respiration, mainly to compare between the two types of respiration. So, what is respiration? Respiration is a process that releases energy. So, it is a release of energy from the breakdown of glucose. So this glucose is obtained from what we eat every day. Okay, this energy is important to keep a cell alive because it is required for processes like protein synthesis, growth, repair, cell division, and etc. So remember, the whole purpose of respiration is to release energy. So this process can be done under two circumstances, with oxygen and without oxygen. If with oxygen, it is called aerobic. Without oxygen, it is called anaerobic. So now, let's compare between these two types of respiration. As you can see here, both require glucose to start with. So it is important that you learn both the word and the chemical equation. Now, this is the first difference. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen. Okay? And anaerobic respiration does not need oxygen. Okay? From the equation, we can see that glucose is broken down by oxygen to release carbon dioxide, water, and energy as byproducts of the reaction. Alright? So if you balance the chemical equation, there will be 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and water. Okay, as for anaerobic respiration, the byproduct is lactic acid and energy. It is important for you all to know that in aerobic respiration, there is a complete breakdown of glucose molecule, while anaerobic respiration involves incomplete breakdown of glucose to produce lactic acid, and this lactic acid will need to be further broken down into carbon dioxide and water. As the glucose breakdown in aerobic respiration is complete, therefore it releases a lot of energy. Because the glucose breakdown in anaerobic respiration is incomplete, it releases very little amount of energy, probably around 5% of the energy released by aerobic respiration. Remember, the waste product of anaerobic respiration is lactic acid rather than carbon dioxide and water. This lactic acid is toxic to your body. That's what makes you feel muscle cramps and fatigue. That's why lactic acid needs to be oxidized to carbon dioxide and water later. And this process will require oxygen. And this is called oxygen debt, which means oxygen that needs to be repaid after the exercise stops. That's why we keep on breathing deeply for a few minutes after we have finished exercising. When the lactic acid is completely oxidized, we can say that the oxygen debt is paid off. Anaerobic respiration also happens in plant cells and some microorganisms, and this will be known as fermentation. Anaerobic respiration in yeast will produce ethanol and carbon dioxide, and this process can be used in brewing and bread making. The ethanol can be used to produce wine and beer. While the bubbles of carbon dioxide gas will expand the dough and help the bread to rise. Alright? So, if in the exam they asked you, what is the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, this is how you will answer. You can talk about the glucose breakdown, the energy released. You can also talk about the end product of the reaction. So for aerobic, you will get carbon dioxide and water. In anaerobic, you will get lactic acid in human, while in the yeast, you will get ethanol and carbon dioxide gas. Most of the reactions in aerobic respiration happen inside mitochondria of the cells. It can also happen in the cytoplasm, while anaerobic, it only happens in cytoplasm. Okay? Now, let's put things into context. When you exercise, your muscle will keep breaking down glucose to release energy. At the beginning of the exercise, muscle will respire aerobically since there is enough oxygen. After some time, when all the oxygen is used up and the blood cannot supply oxygen fast enough to those cells, they will use anaerobic respiration to obtain energy. And this anaerobic respiration will produce lactic acid that makes you tired after a vigorous exercise. Okay? So that's the end of the video. So to summarize, the main aim of respiration is to release energy by breaking down glucose. Aerobic respiration will break down the glucose completely and release a lot of energy, while anaerobic respiration will partially break down glucose to release a relatively smaller amount of energy. Thank you.